An epidemic threat such as the new coronavirus, which causes the disease COVID 19, can have a disruptive effects on the economy. It can disrupt the global supply of goods, making it harder for the US firms to fill orders. It can also waylay workers in affected areas, reducing labor supply on one end and on the other hand, slow the demand for the US products and services. If you like the video, do not forget to support us by hitting the subscribe button and activate the bell so you can receive all new notifications. And of course, like the video if you liked it. The spread of the coronavirus in the countries of the world has caused harm to global economy and caused an imbalance in the energy, currency, commodities, productivity, aviation, and other markets, which pushed countries to take urgent measures to stop public activities in the government and private sectors in an attempt to control the current situation, which is worsening day by day. The virus crisis adds to the other crises that our world suffers from: European debt, instability of energy prices, currency fluctuation, and country losses from natural disasters caused by rain, warming, and drought. In addition to the implication of the UK's exit from the European Union on the euro area, and the impact of the spread of the virus on aspects of the economy. The stoppage of global air traffic and the closure of commercial activities will have a negative impact on economic gains and will harm the commercial traffic. International organizations and financial institutions have prepared to pay a stimulus package for the economies of countries affected by the coronavirus. The International Monetary Fund paid $15 billion in financial packages to comfort the corona crisis, and the United States decided to pay $500 billion financial packages. And China is pumping more than $173 billion, so the institution faced the current crisis. The damage caused by the spread of the disease amounted to more than $15 billion in the European Union, $5 billion in the United States of America, $5 billion in Japan. Foreign investment in Europe fell to $400 billion and more than $300 billion in global economic losses. International efforts to save financial markets from a sudden collapse are accelerating, such as what happened with the beginning of the corona epidemic and the impact on the profit of major companies. The stimulus plan included pumping money into banks, restricting spendings as much as possible, and limiting efforts to combat the spread of the epidemic in the aspects of commercial, industrial, health, and financial activity in order to reduce of potential losses. The economies of countries tend to take effective steps to limit the spread of the corona and to study priorities in the current stage. But it is certain that the spread of the virus has negatively affected the economic performance of the countries. We looked for predicts from experts and how the coronavirus may affect economy in China, Europe, and the US. And here's what we have found. In China, the focal point of the coronavirus outbreak, we forecast that GDP growth could drop as much as 3.5 percentage point in 2020 in a worst-case scenario. Our profound recession scenario further foresees a second wave of outbreak in the early 2021. With the new flare-ups outside the Hubei province and quarantine measures extended to other regions, with factories remaining closed and numerous bankrupts, while fiscal and monetary policy responses will not start pushing growth until Q3 2020. In our more moderate delayed cure scenario, the number of the new infections will slow down, but quarantine will remain in place, causing bottlenecks in supply and downturn in domestic demand and exports. In our most optimistic fast recovery scenario, the Chinese government's measure would be affected, quarantines quickly lifted, and production soon returned to normal, leading to a just short-term dip in demand. In Europe, as the world's biggest trading bloc, could be particularly hard hit by an extended corona outbreak. Our worst case scenario foresees full containment not being achieved until 2021. The healthcare system will experience capacity shortages, and production in several industries will be disrupted. In the delayed cure scenario, supply chains from Asia to Europe will be in jeopardy, and crucial supply chains within Europe will also start to break down. We will see a temporary decline in consumption and investment. In the optimistic fast recovery scenarios, disruptions will only occur in specific sectors. The supply shock will be less strong. Domestic production will be only impacted in Italy, and demand will fall in just few industries, such as travel and tourism. With its strong focus on the domestic market and orientation towards services, the United States economy is not likely to be badly affected as other regions. True, our worst case scenario foresees a strong impact on NAFTA, supply chains, and a drop in consumption, with a resulting decline in GDP of 1.2% in 2020. But in our moderate scenario, supply chains are interrupted in selected industries only, given that this is an election year. In the best case scenario, we see no slowdown in GDP growth, with domestic demand stable and business largely continuing as usual. In conclusion, with the spread of the coronavirus, the United States is facing a potential black swan event, an extremely rare and unpredictable incident that has potentially severe consequences. Therefore, it is important to act swiftly and in meaningful ways to minimize the fallout from this shock. Now is precisely the time of deficit spending. Low interest rates make it cheap and easy for the government to finance itself, while limiting the potency of further monetary stimuli from the Federal Reserve. Therefore, it is incumbent upon the federal government to provide fiscal stimulus to ignite economic activity. In other words, the government needs to engage in sizable spending and investment in key areas of the economy in order to increase economic activity, minimize disruption to the health and prosperity of the population, and to limit the effects on supply chains and the business sector. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in our next video.